Back Road Ministry, the world premiere. Mr. Mahdi coming at you live and direct. Once again from the Kia Optima Studios. So, big fuss, big fuss, big fuss. There is a really big fuss on the internet now. A lot of social media sites, a lot of young people in what they're calling the ADOS community, the African descendants of slave community, regarding the film Harriet. We talk a lot about in our gematria community the way that they release these movies. They like to time into the number 42. 42, of course, is the nigga number. I have no qualms with saying it. So haven't seen the film, but when I do watch the film, if I do ever watch the film, I'm looking for a 42 to be stated a couple of times in the film of them finding a way, because they can't help themselves. The people who produce these movies can't help themselves. They have to throw the nigger code in the film. They just have to. It's just, they got to remind you that you're a nigger at the end of the day. But, you know, not really interested in seeing this movie. There's a movie that I'm rewatching now. I got through part one, and I remembered the movie because I remembered that Cicely Tyson, and I want to say it was about 78, played Harriet, and the movie is called A Woman Called Moses. It's a two-part series, and Cicely Tyson plays Harriet Tubman. She plays Harriet Ross Tubman, young woman who's a slave. They talk about the spiritual connection in the film, her connection with God, and how she always felt that God was communicating that this is what she was supposed to do. How, you know, at a young age, she was actually assaulted by an overseer. She was hit in the head by an overseer, and kind of concussed. And this would pretty much be a problem for her the entirety of her life, this blow to the head she received. So it didn't get all the biographical information, but it is on point with the biographical. Now, it does have Hollywood, and it is produced and directed by Caucasians, but it sticks to the biographical accounts of what took place in Harriet Tubman's life. And it's more detailed because you have more time. And I always felt that anytime you try to do a period piece, or anytime you try to do a piece about a person, you need to have time to let it develop, especially when you're trying to present this to a younger audience or to a family who are trying to teach children about a person. You need the time to do that. So some films, in my opinion, should just be TV movies, because you need the time to do that. And I think they could have possibly been more effective with this new version of Harriet if it was on Netflix and had a couple of episodes, because you need the time to tell the story. So early on, just hearing about the film through some of the, because like I say, the film is just getting barotted. Hollywood doesn't give a fuck, because they make their money quick. They bait people in, they go see it, and then they realize how bad the movie is. But by that time, they've already recouped their money. That's just Hollywood, the typical setup. But, you know, they start the film, from what I've heard. Like I say, I haven't even took my time to see it. I'll probably wait till it come on video. But they start the film at a scene where she's cutting wood. So this is actually a scene in the Harriet miniseries. This is when she gets older. She, at that time, and there's a lot of things that people don't understand about slavery. So there's a lot of misconceptions about slavery, and a lot of misconceptions I heard that was in some of these reviews that took place in the movie, because don't have any historical basis whatsoever. So in slavery times, you could be what we called hired out. Let's say a slave master had a lot of slaves. He needed extra income. He could hire out a slave to another plantation. They were still his property, but they presently were being rented by this other plantation to work their fields. Okay, same rules applied, but different rules. The slave master from that plantation could not beat that slave. Only the rightful owner could approve disciplinary action. So Harriet was hired out to work on another plantation. But she did this for a reason. Because you could be hired out, you could work for that other plantation, but also you could go into the town, let's say where people were just townspeople, they didn't have, plantations of slaves or anything like that. And you could work for them and they could compensate you, the slave. That money really didn't have to go back to the slave master. You give them like a small percentage, but you still kept money. You still kept money. So during this time of slavery, that's why slaves were able to kind of buy, some slaves could buy their freedom, because you still can make income as a slave. So this is a lot of history that's not really represented about slavery. We forget that there was a lot of free slaves. People had free slave papers that, just like driver's license. You just updated them every so many years. You could buy your slavery, which a lot of slaves did. They bought their freedom. So it was a lot of moving parts. You had patroller papers, where if you were out, wandering or on pass, you just had to show your paperwork, and the patrollers could not touch you. So it was a lot of things going on. It was just not nigga on the road, grab him and beat him. No, that is no. So when I heard in the movie that this legal documentation of Harriet, after all this time being free and yada yada yada, and the slave master ripped up the paper, bullshit, never took place. Never took place. When Harriet first went to her slave master to ask her, after she had worked, and actually she cropped a field on the plantation of the person who she was hired to work for. She found some land that he wasn't doing anything with. So she begged him, hey, let me plow this land for you, and I can get something to grow, and I can go sell it. He was like, I haven't been able to do shit with it, but if you do get it to grow, we just split the proceeds. And she was able to get something to grow. She split the proceeds. She was able to sell those goods in town, and that's how she was able to make money. So a lot of intricate parts inside of the times of slavery that are not talked about, that are not spoke about, and you need time to detail everything that was going on. Slavery was just more than you get the shit beat out of you. It was a very complex system. Had a lot of complexities, and a lot of African Americans in this system were able to manipulate. Remember, we've always been people who can overcome adversity. We always know how to pimp the system. And in slavery times, we had to come up with ways of pimping the system. And Harriet was a master of pimping the system. She was a hustler. She knew how to, pretty much manipulate situations. She even utilized her sickness to manipulate situations to get her and put herself in various positions. And that's how she was kind of able to do it. She did marry a free man. That's, ties in with the film. He had his issues. So he had a free man married to a slave. It was a difficult relationship. All this stuff about the slave master trying to get up with her, no, bullshit. Hollywood BS that they made for the new movie. That did not take place. Now, was that not taking place in slavery times? Yes, it was taking place all the time. Slave masters was breeding out the females. Males were called bucks because they were bred out to different plantations and forced to have sex with people. They were also, some slaves were forced to have sex with their own kinfolk just to continue to breed product. They used to breed us like horses, so those things did occur. But as far as Harriet, no, that did not occur. Harriet was not. No slave master was in love with Harriet. It's BS, some Hollywood contrived bullshit. And we'll get deeper into the Harriet breakdown when we hit the part 2 of this 3-part video series. Peace. Part 1 concluded.